What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode of our F122 My Team Career Mode with Andretti Penske Racing. I'm excited to get the season underway, still get to the second race in Saudi Arabia. Last time out in Bahrain, we had a little bit of a disappointing race, a bit of a disappointing finish as well. Piastri wound up retiring on lap 2. We wound up being in line. It looked like we were going to finish 13th in the race. We wound up finishing 17th due to some contact with Mick Schumacher. So we had a bit of a disappointing finish, but still nonetheless 17th, pretty good for our team's first race. We also, as you can see, we have a new livery to debut this race as well. We finally got a modded livery in the game. It's quite like Andretti's paint scheme for Colton Herta in the IndyCar series. It's got Gamebridge as the main sponsor. Honda's on the car as the engine manufacturer. We also got a personal sticker here with the Gamebridge thing on the halo. And we also as well have a modded fire suit in the game, modded gloves. I have a new helmet that I think looks really nice. It's not a modded helmet, but is the koi fish helmet that I turned to be purple. There you see it there. It looks, I think it looks absolutely stunning. I love the way that helmet looks. The design, too bad I can't really show the design on the back of the helmet, aside from looking at it on the podium pass, but that design, or that helmet's probably already my favorite helmet in the game. I don't know if there's going to be one that matches it. We also got a custom emblem right there that you're looking at with the Andretti logo from real life, so we actually have a real logo for the car as well. But looking forward to this weekend in Jeddah, though. I think really all we can hope for is just both cars to finish the race. We didn't have that in Bahrain, and I think that's the big thing we need to have going forward to get the most data possible, to get the most improvements possible to this team, is to just not have any setbacks through either mechanical failures or just paying for damage. And just being able to use all of our money wisely. You see us there looking through the departments momentarily. We're not even close to being able to afford to upgrade one of them. We're also looking at our aero department right here, and we have our first failure of the season. Actually, our first part was supposed to come in for the chassis. Well, it just failed. So there already is a setback to the car. We were hoping to maybe have that before this weekend in Jeddah. Well, we just had a setback to even after Jeddah. Luckily, it won't fail now. But that is unfortunate to have our first hopeful improvement of the season fail already. And there you see us still looking through our departments as well. We need to improve pretty much all of these. Engine, our powertrain is the only one of our departments that are even remotely good. I think they're 5th or 6th on the list currently, and that's just because we have the Red Bull powertrain. Our durability is bottom. It's bottom of the barrel. It's all the way down at the very bottom. Chassis and aero are both, I think, bottom 3 or bottom 4. So we have a lot of work to do with this car and a lot of work to do with this team in general, starting with basically nothing. So this season is all about just getting this team forward and just, like I said, finishing as many races as possible, making as many upgrades as possible, and hoping we can improve this team to get it as ready as we can to maybe try and compete next year. We do have one part that will hopefully come in this week, though, before we head to Jeddah and be our team's first upgrade as we head into the second race weekend of the season. We start to advance the week, and right there you see on the second day of the week, well, actually right there you see the part fail. So never mind. We get also the second part of the season that was supposed to come in fail as well. That's 2 parts that we've had that would have come in already. Both of them have failed. The team, our upgrade departments, have not been our friends so far. That's 2 upgrades, again, that have failed already this season. We don't even have enough to restart this upgrade either, so we're going to have to wait again to get that one re-going as well. But we're going to head to the weekend here in Jeddah. We're going to skip the Pirelli Hot Lap and head right in to Free Practice 1 and just, again, learn more information about this car and try and get it to not drive so much like a boat. Right now, it basically will not turn. It goes fast, but it will not turn. So we got to try and get some upgrades to that as well, and just not have upgrades fail is the biggest thing here. There you see Carlos Sainz, the winner from last week, his first career win on the season as well. That was a huge moment for him, and he's going to look to try and continue that into Jeddah. And you already see right there another mechanical problem with the team. We just had 2 upgrades fail this past week coming into this race that we were supposed to have. Now we have a 5-minute setback here with an electrical system fault in first practice. We can't even get out on track without having issues with the car already. Perhaps that might set the tone for the weekend as we got to wait 5 minutes. But there we are. We fast forward, and we are going to get out on track for our first practice program of the weekend with the track acclimatization. And you'll see me already just trying to test the limits of the car. It did not like me getting on the throttle too much right there. A lot of oversteer, almost careened right into the wall 10 seconds into my practice run. And then here's the first time attacking the first sector here in Jeddah, which is the most tricky part of the track. And I mean, you see right there, the car it does not like it. It does not want to handle these corners very well. And also as well, I've noticed with the hard tires, even though it'll say they're warm, it does take them kind of a while to get warmed up. So this might also be a case of that. just not being warmed up. But at the end of the first lap right here, we're actually going to purple this practice program. So that was the way it started off. I didn't think we'd be able to purple it in one lap, but we did. I decided to try and go for a second lap just to get more information again and just to drive the car a little bit more. But then immediately it gets ruined right here in sector number 1. You see right there, we just passed through 3 gates, all reading them, not even being able to pass them correctly. The second lap going much worse than the first lap did, so we just bail out of that. We give up on that. We take our victory with getting it done on lap 1, and we continue on with the rest of our practice programs. But at the end of the first practice, we wind up 12th on the leaderboard, 2.2 seconds off the pace. Our teammate at Piastri ended up 19th, 2.7 seconds off the pace. So perhaps for Piastri, not as comfortable with the car yet, and still as well. I mean, we're a very new team. We're a very low budget team as well at this point. We don't expect it to be incredibly fast. I think 12th is a bit of a surprise to see at the end of practice, but also it's it's practice. But here we are for the start of qualifying, and at this point, I think all we can hope for in qualifying is to just not qualify dead last. I mean, as long as myself and Piastri aren't 22nd, 21st, that's a little bit of improvement and about as big of a victory as we can have for this brand new team. But here you see us looking around the garage as well, the custom t-shirts for the team, the custom inside of the halo as well, and also even a custom tablet down in front of us. There's a lot of things that can be modded in this game that I had no idea that could be modded, so I really am enjoying this so far. I think the livery looks really good, and the person who made it has done a really good job as well of updating the mod pretty much daily at this point. So I'll put the mod link in the description if you guys want to go and check it out, and maybe even use it in your games as well if you want to, say, bring Andretti into F1, just like I did here with combining with Penske as well. But here we go for the first run in qualifying here. We got 17.5 minutes to try and do something in round number 1, see if we can maybe sneak in to Q2 like we did last week in Bahrain. Here we go, starting the first lap, getting a good run down to the turn number 1. All we can really hope for again is just to have a clean lap and just put down the best time possible here and see if we can just, again, not qualify last. That's really all the goal here, is to do the best we can in qualifying, and hopefully that best is not dead last. But Sector 1 here is just going to continue to prove to be the trickiest part and the hardest part for this car as well. And right here, we just go wide again in this turn a little bit. I think I just used a little bit too much power for the car. The car could handle, and we didn't make the corner right there, but we wind up exiting Sector number 1. We're now into Sector number 2. And just, again, this whole lap so far is kind of been just the first time on track, especially in these nighttime conditions as well. We haven't had a single practice in the nighttime yet. It's all been during the daytime when the track is at its hottest. And now that it's cooled down, there's the most grip, and you can certainly tell that it's the most gripped up that it's been, but it's still a little bit of a struggle for this car. But we come through to cross the line to finish our first lap in qualifying, and we run P2, only 100th off of Kevin Magnussen, who's the fastest in qualifying so far. But again, that's very early into the session. We have not seen any of the big names like Leclerc or Verstappen run a lap yet, so we get back into the garage, we check our standings, we check where we are, and we're still listed as 4th, now 5th. We just had Russell run better than us, but you look, Leclerc, Perez, Russell are the only 3 of the top teams who have ran so far. So we have a lot of big names who have not qualified in this session just yet. We already know we're going to have to go out and try and set one more lap. Our teammate at Piastri is 3 seconds off the pace that's been set to this point, the next to slowest car in this session. But we fast forward to 3 minutes left in the session, and we're down to 12th. So we're going to go out and run one more lap in this qualifying session, see if we can maybe improve our time a little bit, see if we can once again perhaps sneak in to Q2 and make it out of the first round of qualifying in both races of the season so far, which would be a massive surprise. But we start the first lap, we're already down on we start the second lap, we're already down on our first lap just a little bit. But through the first couple of turns right here, we actually lose a good bit of time in turn 2, but then we gain it back as we head further into the sector, in sector number 1. This is our best time so far through the sector the entire weekend. We still go a little bit wide right there, but the least wide we've gone so far. We catch all of these curbs, go a little bit over the curbs, in fact, actually, but we're 3 tenths above our time right now, down to 2 tenths. And then we just lose the car right there across the curb, and actually we spin out and lose our wing on our second lap in qualifying, so that's going to be qualifying done for us. Now, at this point, we just have to hope that maybe we can survive in 14th place to make it to the next round. We got 2 positions to live by here. The top 16 make it into round number 2. Now we're actually down to 15th, so we only got 1 spot, really, to be able to survive here. But we're going to end the session right here. We go ahead and retire since our wing is destroyed. And we look down the leaderboard to see if we perhaps made it to Q number 2. And no, we are out by 1/1000th of a second to Sebastian Vettel. So I don't know if that's a disappointment or if that's perhaps an improvement. Obviously, last week we made it to Q2, but this week we miss out by just 1/1000th of a second. So certainly close, but just not enough to push us over into that second round of qualifying for the second time this season. But here we go. It is time to begin the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
So here we are then, welcoming you today to one of the jewels of the Arab world, Jeddah. One of the biggest cities in Saudi Arabia, second only to Riyadh, gateway to Mecca, and one of the biggest ports in the region. And now, host to the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah street circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Sainz, Perez, George Russell, and Hamilton. Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Magnussen, and Mick Schumacher. Tsunoda, Gasly, Lando Norris, and Joe. Ricciardo, Vettel, Cook, and Lance Stroll. Oscar Piastri, Bottas, Latifi, and Alex Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. Ant, it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
So P17 starting position for us today here in Saudi Arabia. Certainly not a fantastic qualifying, but again, for a newcomer team, we'll take that. So it's a one-stop strategy again here, though, in this race. Mediums to hard, once again, that's pretty much the strategy you're going to see, I think, all season, and you're going to see it from pretty much every car now that that qualifying rule is gone, where the top 10 who make it out of Q2 have to start on the tire they qualified on. I personally don't really like that rule. I wish they still had to start on the tire they qualified on, but however, it is what it is, and we will be running that medium to hard strategy here today in Saudi Arabia. We also added a little bit of fuel in the car just to make sure we can make it to the end of the race in case there is not a safety car here in Saudi Arabia, but I think there's a pretty good chance we will see one. We haven't had one this season yet. The first race was clean, so I think that Saudi Arabia, we have a pretty good chance of getting one here on the streets of Jeddah. But we go on the formation lap here just to get our tires warmed up, make sure we check all the brakes, everything. You hear Mark talking to us right there, telling us to get everything ready and prepared on this first lap, and I'm not too sure what to expect here today in Saudi Arabia. I think last week we were certainly challenging for a top 15 finish. I think we could maybe expect the same thing here in Saudi Arabia once again, and hopefully as well what we see is Piastri complete the whole race this time and maybe have the same pace as us and match us as well, and maybe we both get a top 15 finish. So I think that's the best thing we can hope for in the second race of the season. Still very early into the season. We have no developments on this car yet because any development we've tried to develop has failed so far, but here we go for the second time I'm doing this manual placement as well. I've really enjoyed this so far, the couple times that I've done it, and the red still kind of freaks me out a little bit, but you gotta always just wait until you see it get to purple. I got perfect start once again, but here we go. It is time to get the second race of the season in Saudi Arabia underway. The second time Formula One has been to this track as well, but it is 5 red lights, and we are underway. Charles Leclerc gets a pretty good start. He's going to be able to cover off Max Verstappen into turn number 1 and keep that first starting position, but Max Verstappen actually fights back to the inside into turn number 2, so they're going to be side by side fighting for the lead. The two Alpines and the Haas go 3 wide momentarily through turn 2, and then us in the background, we're just trying to survive this first beginning sector. We don't want to have any contact with any cars around us. The AI are super slow through turns 1, 2, and 3, so I just try and stayed behind them and did not create anything crazy for ourselves or for them. And then here we're behind Ricciardo, we're behind Sebastian Vettel, and then we have Bottas right behind us, which I feel like 18th place for Bottas is a bit of a disappointing start for him. The Alfa Romeo should be quicker, so 18th qualifying position for Bottas here in the second race of the season is a bit of a disappointment. You see him attack us already. He doesn't want to stay behind us for too long, but we luckily keep that position for now until we get loose right here. We lose a little bit of traction on that corner right there, and that allows Bottas to attack us to the inside. We pretty much hand that position to him. I'm making a little bit of contact by accident, but luckily no damage for either car. Piastri fights his way to side by side with us into this corner. I force him out a little bit. I want to keep that spot on my teammates, so we force him to get behind us once again. He stays in 19th. I'm down to 18th. One position lost on this first lap. A little bit unfortunate, but it is to what I believe is a much faster car in Valtteri Bottas, but actually right here in this final braking zone, we gained a bunch of time. We gained all that time we just lost on the AI in front of us right back right there, so we're able to attack the braking zone much more than the AI are apparently, and that's going to be a big focus point for us in this race today in Saudi Arabia, because we can always outbrake the AI here, and actually I do it again here in turn number 1. We outbrake Valtteri Bottas, and we get that position back from him, so we're back up to the place that we started in 17th place, and now just trying to maybe see if we can attack Daniel Ricciardo or Sebastian Vettel in the coming laps, but again, still trying to figure this car out, figure this track out as well. And right here, we get a big snap of oversteer, and we almost lose the car in lap 2 into the wall, but we save it luckily, and what it does now is it sets up for Valtteri Bottas to attack us. We also go wide in that corner once again. That's going to be something that we see all the time throughout this race. The car does not like Sector 1 at all, but that gives Bottas a chance to perhaps actually, never mind, I think he lost some time in sector number 1, so he's actually 7/10 behind us. We're only half a second behind Daniel Ricciardo at this point, so maybe we can try and set him up for the lap we get DRS. And once again, trying to defend from Valtteri Bottas as well. But once again, in this last braking zone, we gain a bunch of time on Daniel Ricciardo right here, and that actually might be able to set us up for a move into turn 1 if we fancy. So use a little bit of the ERS, try and get a run on Daniel Ricciardo right here, try and get a run on the Australian. He blocks to the inside a little bit, so I decide to go to the outside of Daniel Ricciardo down into turn number 1. We outbrake him just a little bit. We kind of force him to get in behind Vettel. He has to check up for, and that allows us to pass Daniel Ricciardo. So that's 2 spots that we've gained in turn number 1 just on the 3rd lap of this race, and that puts us up to 16th place. So now trying to attack Sebastian Vettel and then Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo's teammate, right ahead of him as well. So I mean, through these early laps, we've gained a couple of spots. We've done some nice attacking so far. This car has felt much better than it did perhaps in practice and qualifying, but still a little bit of a struggle as you see through Sector 1. It's not, it's definitely a handful. That's the point where this car really does not enjoy this track, but the rest of this track is a ton of fun. I mean, the entire track, even in Sector 1, even though the car is a bit hard to drive, the flow of this track is just so enjoyable. I enjoy this track so much. It's my favorite one that I've driven so far on this game, and it's just a fantastic time. I really do enjoy it, and I think it's a fantastic track that has been added to the F1 calendar. But here we go again to try and attack Sebastian Vettel the next lap. We get DRS this time, use that ERS as well, and we have a pretty good gap on Daniel Ricciardo behind us, so nothing to worry about from behind. Everything is out front, and Sebastian Vettel into turn number 1. We fancy a move for a moment to the inside. We kind of fake it, and then we get back in behind Sebastian Vettel. Knew we were too far behind that time to go for a lunge. We would have certainly created contact if I'd made a move that time, so we just ride behind him once again. Now it's Vettel making the move on Lando Norris for 14th place. I think Lando Norris at this point is having some kind of mechanical issue. I heard Mark come over the radio and mention that to me at some point. We have to actually check up big time right here for those two, not run into the back of Lando Norris and maybe try again to make a pass once again on the McLaren. This time we get DRS. He is suffering. You can certainly tell he's having some kind of mechanical problem with that car. We get a good run of speed as we go further down the straightaway and then into the braking zone once again. We gain a lot of time on Lando Norris right in front of us, so we are right here to attack into turn number 1. We get the DRS, we get the ERS into our advantage, and just right away he blocks to the inside, so we go to the outside again. This time into turn number 1, we're side by side heading into the turn. I force Lando to match us into the turn. He doesn't do that. He backs out and gives up the position, so hands it to us. We're up to 15th place now, still behind Sebastian Vettel. You see an AlphaTauri of Gasly and Zhou fighting side by side for a moment through Sector 1. Zhou actually made that pass on Gasly. Now it's Gasly under attack from Vettel and us under attack from our car, because our car almost went to the inside wall a couple of times right there, but luckily we saved it, and we still move into this race, luckily so far, without incident, as we're now 5 laps in, and the medium tires, I feel like they're starting to go away just a little bit here, but still some decent traction in them and some decent grip as well. But look at Sebastian Vettel, just gained a lot of time on us right there. We didn't really gain anything to that DRS zone. We just kind of had to survive through it, since we didn't even get a good run onto that straightaway. This time we get DRS once again, and now we're onto the front straightaway, who we make actually a little bit of contact with Sebastian Vettel right there. I checked the wing immediately to see if we get any damage, and thank goodness, no, we don't. The wing is more forgiving this year in 2022, so luckily we didn't get any damage. Here is Max Verstappen Charles Leclerc fighting for the lead side by side into turn number 1. They stay side by side through turn number 2 as well, and they keep it side by side through the very beginning of this first sector. I mean, these two are going at it for the lead 7 laps in, and they have not been able to get away from each other, but actually Leclerc right here is going to be forced to give up that position. They're still side by side with each other going through the sector. A little bit of contact, and then Leclerc decides to back out of it, gives up that spot to Max Verstappen, and Leclerc knows he has DRS that's going to be coming to his assistance very soon, and then we're still behind Sebastian Vettel, who's still behind Pierre Gasly and Guan Yu Zhou, who are fighting each other. We get a little bit loose once again through the first sector, so we lose a little bit of time, and then we have to back off once again because these two causing issues for Sebastian Vettel still almost caused issues for us once again. We have to back off one more time. And at some point, somebody has to make a move here. We can't just keep sitting single file brake checking each other, so I decide that it's going to be me. I make a move around the outside of Sebastian Vettel, around the banked left-hander right there, but then he fights back with his ERS. I decide, you know what, Sebastian, I'm not going to fight that. And then I actually make a little bit of contact in the under braking right there, trying to let him go. The car got squirrely. We hit his tire, but luckily it was tire to tire. We get no damage, and now that's allowed Bottas to attack us, but we block it to the inside. Don't want Valtteri Bottas getting back past us again in this race. We still kind of block him a little bit, kind of squeeze him, and force our way to stay in 15th place, and we're still behind Sebastian Vettel right here, so we have not been able to make a successful move on the Aston Martin driver just quite yet, but here comes Valtteri Bottas again. We block him one more time to the inside. We still are being super aggressive trying to keep the Alfa Romeo driver behind us, but this time he makes the move to the outside, and actually I block it one more time. And then in the braking zone, Sebastian Vettel locks up, and actually this time we go by. We get loose on the exit of the corner. There was some contact with Gasly in front of us as well. Now Bottas is definitely getting to our outside. We have no way to defend this time, and here's the replay of what just happened between Gasly and Zhou. Gasly gets damaged to the left front of his wing. He goes into the pit lane, has to forced to make a pit stop early in this race, and then we're getting caught out by Sebastian Vettel, by Valtteri Bottas. We force our way in front of Vettel still into turn number 1. We make a tiny bit of contact with Bottas, but luckily we stay fine, and then on the next lap we're on the attack on Bottas, who has no DRS help. We have the DRS to our advantage. Side by side into turn number 1, he gets a little bit squirrely, and then we force our way around the outside once again, so that's a lot of times we have made the move around the outside into turn number 1, but here comes Bottas one more time. Once again, it's kind of a switchback situation here. He gets the DRS, so he passes us, then we get the DRS on the front straightaway, and then we pass him. So here we are fighting on lap number 9, coming to lap number 10. Once again, I have the DRS. He does not. Around the outside of Valtteri Bottas this time, but at turn number 1, still side by side with him. And we get this pass complete one more time into the turn. So that's 4 or 5 times in turn number 1. We've either defended a position or we've been able to gain a position around the outside so far. And then through sector 1, you see the car one more time, get squirrely, get upset. And it happens once again right there as well. So the car just still not happy. Here's a couple of Haas drivers as well holding up the pack right in front of us. So these guys, Mick Schumacher and Kevin Magnussen, fighting each other, are allowing us to gain some time a little bit as they're holding up Yuki Tsunoda and as well Guan Yu Zhou. So that's going to allow us to get into this battle just a little bit right before our pit stops. These 4 in front of us have now been kind of pushed into our grasp a little bit. We're 1.6 seconds ahead of Valtteri Bottas all of a sudden. So we gained some time on him suddenly out of nowhere as the tires have started to wear. As we're getting close to our first pit stop in this race, everybody about to pit on this next lap or 2. And actually, you see some damage to our wing there. I'm not too sure how we got it. It just appeared on the damage screen. So luckily, so far, it has not affected the car. But actually, here you see once again Leclerc and Verstappen fighting for the lead. Verstappen locks up. Leclerc moves to the inside as Verstappen almost hits him into the wall. But then they immediately come to the pit lane for their first pit stops of the day. So Charles Leclerc has done a great job so far of being able to fight Max Verstappen for the lead of this race. But here they come into their pit boxes for the first time in this race, and both of them are going to have great stops. Leclerc is in for the hard tire. So is Verstappen in for the hard tire as well. Both of them are down and away. Here comes Lewis Hamilton in the background, and actually here's Kevin Magnussen, who has an issue on his pit stop. So that's the Haas team. 2 races in a row, they've given one of their drivers a bad pit stop. And now we come into the pit lane attacking the pit entry, just getting slowed down right at that line. We were probably a mile an hour away from getting a speeding penalty there. But second time this season, we tried to turn in here. And actually, I thought I was a little bit early on it, but we get purple. So we get a really good stop here in the box. No problems. The hard tires go on the car. We are down and away for the only pit stop of the day. And we get a 2.4 blistering pit stop once again. That's both races now. Our pit stops have been 2.4 seconds. The team doing a fantastic job pitting my car. So thank goodness we've had great pit stops, and that allowed us to get out ahead of Kevin Magnussen and stay ahead of Bottas as well. Magnussen, you saw with the slow pit stop there, he's now behind us, and just immediately Now we're on the cold tires again. You see it, we get the graphic brought up right there. The tires are dead cold, and I still firmly believe as well that even on the hard tires, when they show they are warm, they're not actually warm. I don't know if it's some kind of glitch or maybe just the way the tires are going to handle in this game no matter what, but even when I've gotten them into the warm temperature range, it still takes them 3 or 4 laps before they are comfortable to even really push. So it seems like the AI don't have that same problem. They certainly struggle on the cold temperatures, on the hard tires as well, but not near as much as I feel like we do. And then Magnussen sends it around the outside, then gets loose going into the corner. We go back around his outside, and we retain that position. Here's our teammate Piastri on the pit lane, and the team actually has a bad pit stop. They can't get the left front off. A long pit stop for Piastri, who also has to wait on the McLaren and the Williams to go by him as well. And then we're trying to defend all the way to the inside wall on Kevin Magnussen, and this time we still keep that position on him. We had to force him all the way to the wall, defend aggressively hard that time going into turn number 1 on lap number 13 of this race. And every time I feel like on the exit of turn 3 or turn 2, we're just about clipping that wall because trying to get the power down, the car does not enjoy it, and it almost breaks free every single time. It almost broke free right there as well, but we saved it going across those curbs as well. And now it's going to be Magnussen with the run on us. I let him go to the inside. Don't really want to fight Magnussen here, knowing that he's going to have the advantage on us, so we let him pass us, and then we get the advantage back to our side with the DRS down the front straightaway. He blocks to the inside. I then take the move to the outside. He locks up his right front, and we are clear once again, making another pass through turn number 1. That's gonna, we should at this point put a pass counter in turn number 1 up on the screen, because we have done a ton of that today so far in this race. And then here's Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc still scrapping it out on lap 16. Leclerc locks up big time going into turn number 1 and allows Verstappen through to the lead. So these two, 16 laps in, still can't get away from each other, fighting each other incredibly hard lap after lap. We're also been fighting with Magnussen incredibly hard lap after lap. This time I feel like I'm too far back to make a move on him, so I decided into turn 1, I'm just going to stay behind him. And then actually, he locks up, so never mind. We get the position on Kevin Magnussen on lap number 16. So we're now up in the 12th place, and 12th place is a fantastic run in this race so far. Now we have Zhou in front of us to go and attack and try and make the pass on him. We're only 1.1 seconds behind him, so if we can try and get ourselves into that DRS zone before we get to the second sector of this track, that we could be in a good position here to maybe even gain 11th place and be just one position outside the points. A points finish here in Jeddah would be huge for the team already in the second race if we could somehow pull that off in this race, but we still got a lot of racing to go. Just now 10 laps left in this race, and we are once again struggling through some of these corners and with the hard tires as well. But now we have DRS on Zhou. We finally got it, and in the braking zone we once again gain a bunch of time into that final braking zone, the final corner, and on this front straightaway we are close enough to Zhou. He has no DRS. We have the help of DRS once again heading into turn number 1. That's been the theme of the entire race so far. We also use our ERS. We attack to the outside, and Zhou is going to try and force his way to the inside and keep that position, but then he locks up his tires as well, so that gives us 11th place now. We are one position out of the points. Yuki Tsunoda is the last car we would need to pass to get ourselves into the points. He's 4 seconds up the road, so 7 laps to gain 4 seconds. It's a bit of a daunting task to try and catch an AlphaTauri who has much more pace than we do in our Andretti Penske racing car, but we are certainly going to try. Perhaps we could use Kevin Magnussen to DRS train us a little bit forward if we wanted to. But now, I'm curious at this point, 19 laps in, where our teammate of Oscar Piastri is, so we ask Mark about him.
Gap to your teammate behind is 20.8 seconds. Okay, they're on old hard tyres. They're in 20th place. And the time last lap was 1 minute 35.6.
Thank you for the information, Mark. Still not as good as Jeff, though. Missed my boy Jeff, by the way. But there you hear Piastri down in 20th place. Quite far behind us. A little bit disappointing to hear that he's in 20th at this point in the race with only a couple laps to go. Actually, there's a caution behind us. What is happening back there with only 3 laps to go in this race? It's Zhou. Guan Yu Zhou has blown his engine. That is heartbreak for the Alfa Romeo driver. Only 3 laps to go, 3.5 laps to go, rather, here in Saudi Arabia. And his race has come to an early conclusion. So that's going to be disappointment for him in the second race of the season, the second race of his early career. And here's Magnussen moving to our inside. I decide to let him go. I don't want to fight Kevin Magnussen. My thought process here was either set him up for DRS on the last lap and maybe make a pass coming across the line, or perhaps he could pull us forward to Yuki Tsunoda. 5.6 seconds is a lot of time to gain as we cross the line with 3 laps to go here in Saudi Arabia. So I didn't really necessarily think that was going to happen. I was just perhaps wanting to ride behind Kevin Magnussen and just use him as a pick on this very DRS-centered track. As we head into turn number 1, we actually gained pretty good time on him, and through turn number 2 as well. So we are on the diffuser of Magnussen until we actually, on the exit of the corner, lose traction in the car, lose grip, and we are forced to lose a little bit of time. But here we are on lap 24 of 25.
There appears to be an issue
That is the absolute last thing that I want to hear with 1.5 laps to go when we could be in line for a magical 12th place finish. Everything could be in jeopardy if this engine can't hold on for just one more lap. Something's going wrong here, guys. I've got no power in the engine.
Okay, we have a severe engine issue. Find a safe space to retire or return to the pits. And
moments later, there it is. We are out of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It only took 2 races, or really a race and 9/10 something, I don't know, fractions. Either way, we got our first mechanical failure in the second race of the season, and that means that we have not had both cars finish a race yet this season. But let's real quick go for the podium celebrations in Saudi Arabia.
They've delivered an outstanding performance today and under intense pressure to take a well-earned victory at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everybody at the team.
Well, what a disappointing end to what was a fantastic race going for us in race number 2 of the season. And that's both times this season we've had really good finishes going for us, and then by the end of the race, we're not in the position that we should have been in. And unfortunately, this time in Saudi Arabia, it's even worse than it was last week in Bahrain, as we finished 22nd, the one of 2 cars DNF'd. You see also Guan Yu Zhou DNF'd from the race as well. Piastri only finishes 19th, by the way, so not a good week at all in Saudi Arabia for our Andretti Penske Racing team. Week number 2, much worse than week number 1. And that also means that we also have some damage to pay for here. We caused, I think, about $30,000 in damages there, which for a team that is suffering for money compared to other teams, that is not what you want to see. We only gained $37,000 out of that week. So, I mean, not a lot of money gained from Saudi Arabia there. We have a lot of work to do in the future to get this team better. We also need to stop having failures like we had with our entire development that we had coming in, development package that we had coming into this race. But yeah, anyways, I want to thank you guys all so much for watching episode number 2 of our My Team Career Mode. There you see our kinetic unit, by the way, is blown. It's shot, so we got to replace that as well. We're already on unit number 2 of 3 after 2 races, so that's looking like we might have to take a penalty later in the season. But yeah, anyways, all the support the first video got, I do appreciate you guys so much. I also appreciate you so much for watching this video as well. If you could, I would appreciate it so much if you could smash that like button and the subscribe button as well. It would help me out a ton. I would appreciate every single one of you who does. But anyways, guys, I will see you guys for episode number 3 in Miami. So have a great rest of your day or evening, whatever time you're watching this. Thank you so much for the support. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for watching.